Hey everyone, and thank you for clicking on this video. My name is Justin, and I've been emotionally fired up over the last couple days following the Toronto Maple Leafs back-to-back series over the weekend against the Minnesota Wild and then against the Winnipeg Jets. Last night was a rough night for me. Very emotionally drained after that game. It frustrated me and boiled my blood to a point where you just can't believe. And so I wanted to hop on here today and express some of my feelings about the poor officiating that we've seen. Not just yesterday, everyone's focused on the game against the Winnipeg Jets, but both games, because I thought that they were equally as bad against Minnesota. Now, it is really important to first note that the Toronto Maple Leafs did not lose either of these two games due to officiating. They lost them to their own mistakes. The Leafs have been playing incredible hockey over the last 20 or so games. It was bound to happen where they just have a couple games where they don't look like themselves, and they were far out of each game before the refs had any say about it. So I don't want anybody commenting like I'm just complaining that the Leafs lost because of the refs. That's not the case whatsoever. The Leafs lost due to their own mistakes. Against Winnipeg, they gave up 3 or 4 2-on-1 clean looks leading up to, I think, a 4 or a 5-1 lead for Winnipeg. It was just very bad defensive play. Lots of really bad pinches, some breakaways even given against. And against Minnesota the night before, they were down 3-0. They claw back. They get the point. Incredible that they were able to get that point. So I'm really happy with the team and where they stand right now. Obviously, they need to clean up a lot of the messes that they had in the last two games, but at the end of the day, the team's still doing really well. They're in a great spot, and a couple losses doesn't mean anything, so no need to worry about that. However, with that said, even though they didn't have any real impact on the scores of the game, the officiating in this league is just such a joke. And I made a video calling out the refs last year, and we're doing it again this year, and I know it's just going to keep happening over and over again. We're not really going to make a change because it is a league-mandated kind of philosophy that the refs have in a game, which makes it mind-blowing. But it's important to make sure that at some extent, some capacity, these refs are held accountable for their inexcusable behavior, inexcusable game management that they've shown over the last two games. Now, let's break it down to the bare bones. What is officiating? Why are rules in place in the game? Obviously, it's to make it fair. People forget it's a game, right? We're playing hockey. So obviously there's rules to make sure that, you don't give a disadvantage to one team, you don't favor another team. But the bare bones of it all, if you look just at the core, the main responsibilities of the refs is to ensure player safety. Is it not? The whole point is to make sure players are, again, held safe, made sure that they aren't taken advantage of and that there aren't dirty plays in a game. That should be your number one priority in this league. And yet, the NHL has produced a hockey league where it is more egregious to get a holding the stick call or a little hook. As long as it touches a hand, it is a hook. No ifs, ands, or buts. But if you knee someone in the head, like the game against Minnesota, if you go knee-on-knee against Rasmus Sandin, like the game in Winnipeg, if you abuse the star player of the Toronto Maple Leafs, Austin Matthews, it's a negated 4-on-4, even strength penalty. And yes, I will go as far to say when you let Jason Spezza hit a falling Neil Pionk, who is extremely vulnerable because you let that circumstance come, that is a dirty play, and you didn't call a single one of those penalties. But Morgan Rielly got a holding the stick call leading to a 2-minute 5-on-3 2 days ago, when the other guy was holding the stick equally as much as Morgan Rielly, but the refs have some sort of perception that we need to call the game fair. In both of those games, the penalties ended 5 on each side. Because you look at the game sheet, we called a fair game, we did our job right. Good on us. It's pathetic. You call the things that you just want to call to make sure the optics of the game look like it's fair. In the grand scheme of things, it's making sure everything's fair. It's not making sure that the team that plays dirtier gets more penalties. The team that is taken advantage of, at the very least, if not for the player's safety, gets a power play. It's not about that in the NHL. It's not about that for these referees. It's about how does the optics look? And again, there's zero accountability for any of them. It is pathetic. If a single player or coach or anyone in a public space calls out a referee, they get 5 times the fine, a $25,000 fine, over someone that, let's say, gets a slew foot and gets a $5,000 fine, the maximum allowed under the collective bargaining agreement. A $5,000 fine for slew footing, a $25,000 fine for calling out a referee. And I get it. To some extent, I get it, because you don't want just everyone going out and blaming the refs. You don't want everyone just having all these sound bites in the press conferences. You want them to take some accountability. You want them to make sure that the league doesn't look bad. I get it to an extent. But when the NHL is serving fines to players and coaches who speak out against horrific officiating, all it does is further show the support that the NHL, Gary Bettman, the Department of Player Safety, all of them having the backs of the referees, and further justifying, instead of holding accountability, they are justifying the decisions in these games. A game in which Rasmus Sandin is likely out long-term. I don't know the actual results. Didn't look good. Surely should have never happened. Happened on the 4-on-4 after the offsetting minors for Dubois harassing and abusing Austin Matthews. And you're going to say, okay, Austin Matthews, 6'3", probably like 220, can take care of himself, right? It's not his responsibility. And if he did punch back, he probably gets the retaliation penalty and we get a penalty kill. It shouldn't be the responsibilities of the players. And what you did last night against Minnesota was leave it to the players to settle for themselves. It wasn't Austin Matthews fighting back against Pierre-Luc Dubois, but it was Wayne Simmons going out and getting a couple penalties, getting in a couple fights. It was Jason Spezza hitting a vulnerable Neil Pionk while he's falling to the ice. It was Kyle Clifford getting in a fight and pissing off Paul Maurice, who's then yapping at the Leafs bench instead of yapping at the refs. It's a joke. It's pathetic. What does the Department of Player Safety think that they're doing? And now Neil Pionk and Jason Spezza are both having in-person hearings facing suspension on plays that weren't even called a damn minor penalty, let alone a 5-minute major. Like, there wasn't a penalty, a single penalty. I wish I had the penalties that were called listed in front of me right now, because there were probably a couple roughings, obviously the 5-minute major penalties for fighting, but probably a couple hooks. Was there a holding the stick? Was there a high stick? I don't know. Plays that happen in hockey, that aren't disgusting, that you're not trying to necessarily get out of the game. They just happen. They're minor. That's why they're called minor penalties. Those are the ones that are getting called. And again, the plays that are dirty, the plays that you want out of the game. Even Pierre-Luc Dubois' knee to the head of Joseph Woll, which was incidental, is something you still want out of the game, right? Even incidental contact to the head, you want out of the game. That should be an automatic 2-minute minor at least. You don't mean to do it. I get it. I'm hoping he didn't mean to do it. It's the second time our goalie's been run in 2 games. I'm hoping he doesn't mean to do it. But even if he did, you don't mean to high stick someone all the time, right? Sometimes your stick goes up, accidentally clips someone in the face, right? Sometimes you fall down and you trip someone by accident. There's still a trip. There's still a high stick. But when someone accidentally knees someone in the head, your goalie, it's not a call. I don't get it. This league questions why they aren't even considered a top 4 league in North America. They are terrible in their marketing, and they're terrible in running the game. Hockey is the best sport on earth. I'm so firm on that. And yeah, I'm biased. I'm a diehard hockey fan. The best sport on earth. And so many people around the world and around North America are missing out on it because the NHL consistently and continues to put a terrible product on the ice, whether it's their officiating or their marketing, just every way that they run the business. And when someone's watching a game, heck, you might find it entertaining. But as an actual hockey fan who cares about the players and their well-being and their safety, it's a joke. I cannot stand how this continues to be allowed. And this is the same officiating group that they had in 2019, Game 2 against the Boston Bruins, where Nazem Kadri hit someone high in the head, got suspended for the rest of the series. And he absolutely deserved that. Yes, he did. 2 seconds before that, Mitch Marner got elbowed in the face. No call, no suspension, nothing. Leafs lose the series without their second line center. And then they continue to come back 2 years later. And once again, it's the philosophy that the players will manage the game themselves. Great idea. I was watching the game yesterday. I was just hoping. We've got 4 guys on the team that I wouldn't care if they got suspended. I really don't. I care about player safety, but if they went out and took someone's head off, the refs made it known that that's not going to be called a penalty. The league might make it known that it's a suspension, but at the very least, you get some retribution because that's what the refs are telling us, right? They set the precedent. We are not going to call anything. We are going to leave it up to you to decide. So decide it. Run someone. Why wasn't Pionk caught with his head down? He was, I guess, in an extent, when Jason Spezza hit him. Why was Pierre-Luc Dubois left alone after he abused Austin Matthews and then knees Joseph Woll in the head? Fight him. He doesn't want to drop the gloves. That's his own problem. Fight him anyway. Refs aren't going to call it. And if they do, again, it's a joke. It's disgusting. I'm fired up again. I apologize. But this is something that, like, the number one thing when I'm watching a hockey game that really, really gets to me. Call penalties as they're supposed to be called. You do it for hooks. Remember in preseason of this year when they cracked down on cross-checking to make sure the game was more safe because people were getting cross-checked in front of the net, and you had 3 cross-checking calls every game in the preseason, and then ever since in the regular season, they haven't been called. But you make the note that we're cracking down on this one thing. This one thing, just like they did with hooks a couple years ago. If it touches a hand, it's a hook. Don't you dare do it. Don't get your stick in someone's hands. That's going to be a penalty. But hey, if you want to hit someone in the head, by all means, go for it. What do you think? What are your thoughts? Let me know in the comments. Love to hear it. If you do like this content, I make a lot of Leafs videos, a lot of NHL videos, so click like, subscribe. I look forward to seeing your opinions. Maybe I'm in the wrong here. I don't care. I'm fed up with it. But I appreciate you watching this video, taking the time. I'll see you in the next one.